Microsoft. I'm in the Fast Track Center, and I'm a team subject matter expert. I was a relationship manager for a few years before being a team subject matter expert. When it came out, I was so excited because I am a organization junkie. So I love the fact that I could do everything in one place. It made me so happy, and I really loved being able to put in my input and make some changes for the better, show people how real world people actually use technology. So that was really fantastic. So I want to kind of gauge the audience. There are a few different directions we can go today, and I want to make sure that you're getting the most bang for your buck. So how many people here are using Teams today? Okay, about 50%. Okay, how many people are using Skype today? Skype for Business online or on-prem?
Great.
Both.
Okay. Okay, great, fantastic. All right, how many people here are in the government sector? Okay, how many are in healthcare? Cool. Education? All right, let's get that part. How many people work with hourly workers? Okay, great. So what we're going to do today, we're going to go high level over what Teams is, what it does, how you can implement it in your organization, really getting through to people that this is a new product and that this is how we can talk about using it. And then we'll go through some of the first line worker stuff that's out that can be used, not just for hourly employees, but also for other pieces as well. There's a lot of great content here. I will ask if you have questions, if you would wait till the breaks. Just hold your questions, write them down. I would appreciate it, just because we have so much to go through today. All right, so Microsoft Teams is the hub for teamwork. Microsoft Teams pulls together SharePoint Online, OneDrive for Business, and Exchange Online all together in one place. So you have your chat there, your collaboration space, your meeting space, everything in one place. So you communicate through the chats, meetings, and calls, collaborate with Office 365 because it does bring it all together, customize and extend with third-party applications that you can get within Teams, processes devices, and work with confidence because you have the power of Office 365 security and compliance. So, communicating through chat. Not only can you communicate through chat in one language, but you can also communicate through other languages. Translator is part of the chat and the conversation within the channels within Teams. So you've got one-to-one chats, you've got group chats, you can have as many as 50 people in a chat. You can now remove people from those chats, for those of you who've been using it for a while. You can communicate globally. And if you are communicating with someone in Japan and they're using Japanese and you're using English, you use that translator piece. So have your admin turn it on if it's not turned on. But that's one of the best ways that we can communicate globally in an efficient way and work well together.
I'm Japanese. How many accurate translate?
So what you would do, and otherwise the questions will ask, if your Windows language is set as Japanese and someone types to you in English, there's an ellipses next to the verbiage. You click on that, you click on translate, and it translates it to your local language. Okay? That's how translate works. So in those of you who have been using Skype for Business, you know that Skype on your mobile and Skype on your desktop are two completely different things, and you do not have a continuous thread between them. In Teams, you do. So what you see in Teams on your desktop is the same thing you're going to see in your web app, is the same thing that you're going to see on your mobile app as far as that conversation goes, which is a huge, huge bonus for those of us who get very frustrated with non-threaded conversations. And it's perpetual chat, so you have that history. If Brian said something to me a week ago and I said, oh my gosh, I don't know what that is, I can either have saved it and I can go back and find that, or I can scroll back up and find that chat from a week ago where he said whatever he said. Through meetings. So who has had a Teams meeting experience? How much better is it? How much smoother is it than it has been in the past?
The audio is so much better than Skype.
Have you used video yet?
I have, but not much.
Okay. Yeah, it's a lot clearer. So Teams was built for the cloud. It was not transported to the cloud, it was built for the cloud. So you get a smoother experience, you get a better digital experience with those meetings. You can have spontaneous meetings with Meet Now buttons. You can schedule your meetings in Teams or in Outlook as a Teams meeting. So all of this, and it's the same on your mobile and your desktop and your web client. And if you're in a meeting on your desktop and you need to transfer it to mobile, it's seamless. You can also use your mobile as a second screen and join as an addition to your desktop. I do that almost every single day. And if I need to walk around with a video, then I'm just going to join from my mobile and I'm going to walk around with the video like this. Because you can. Because Teams has that seamless interaction. It's pretty awesome. If you haven't played with that, I suggest you do. Communicate through calling. If you have calling plans within voice, or if you have direct routing set up, then you can use the calling plans within Teams. You've got the dial pad in Teams, not just on your client, but you also have a dial pad on your web client. So if you don't want to use your phone number, you want to use your work number, you can go to Teams, use that dial pad, and your work number is going to show up, not your cell phone number. So that's an option. You've got calling features, you've got your voicemail, which you can't see here, but your voicemail will be in Teams if you have a voicemail set up. So all kinds of things there. Call routing, that's all there. So Office 365 apps, all the Office 365 apps are already being integrated. You've got Planner, you've got OneNote, you've got Excel, PowerPoint, Word. You've got Flow and Power apps. You have Microsoft Graph if you want to go ahead and dev up anything. You've got bots, one consolidated workplace, put it all in there. Customizing and extending these third-party apps. All third-party apps within Teams have been vetted by Microsoft. That does not mean that you should not vet them yourself. If you have concerns about third-party apps within Teams, then turn them off and vet them yourselves and then turn them on. Find out what your teams need. What do your employees need to use to get their daily work done, and then put that in there. There are ways to work with that governance piece. Empower your first-line workers. We're going to dive into first-line workers in a bit, but with your first-line workers, you have calendars, you have your schedules, you have your shifts. You are able to change shifts, put in time off requests. There's a lot that can be done there, and we'll go through that. Working with confidence. So the same security and compliance center that you already know and love if you are working with Office 365 covers Teams. So it's HIPAA compliant, GDPR compliant, EU compliant, has DLP, legal hold, audit, e-discovery, all of the conversation that happens in the chat and in the channels are in Exchange. So you have that capability of searching for these pieces. Multi-factor authentication, so you have that security. And one admin experience in the Teams Admin Center. Microsoft Teams for first-line workers, we're going to go a little bit deeper in, so I'm going to go ahead and skip this slide for right now. And then this slide just shows, we can go through this a little bit more in conversations, but this just gives you some ideas on how different pieces of your business can use Teams. It starts the conversation. That doesn't mean that this is the only way that this department can use it, but it starts the conversation. And if you are looking to implement Teams within your business or getting people to use Teams a bit more, start the conversation. How will you use it? How do you communicate today? How do you collaborate today? What do you work on together? These are important pieces. Any questions just on that quick little go through? I feel like I've been talking about that. All right, for best practice for adoption from Teams. Why do we talk about adoption at the beginning? Because change does not happen automatically. many people here, and be honest, are resistant to change of anything? I'm probably the first to admit it, I'm not a change person. Unless it's something that benefits me. No, I'm not a change person. But change is challenging. We all get used to something, we get comfortable, we're in our bubble, and what we hate more than anything is if somebody just pulls the rug out from under us, like, nope, you're not using that anymore, use this. Please don't do that. Just don't. No one's happy. You're not happy, I'm not happy, we're not happy, nobody's happy. Resistance is something that comes naturally to us. We are creatures of habit. So, give people a choice through change. Go ahead and start a pilot. Go ahead and introduce things. Have conversations about teams, about how people can use it. What is your use case for teams? This is what it does. This is the collaboration that you see here. This is how you can chat. This is how you can share documents. This is how you can collaborate on a document with it only being stored in one place and not losing it in 500 emails going back and forth. Invest that time, invest that communication, and invest in your people by making that change. A pull approach is the way to go. So push approach is that this is out of the way, this is here, this is what you're using now. How many people have done that in the past in your career and have had resistance? Okay, people did not like you at all. So you get that pushback, you get that, I don't want to use this. Why don't you give me that other thing that I really loved back? However, if as you're planning and deploying these things, you're also sending little tidbits of information, hey, this is our plan, this is what's coming. Would you like to be part of that first round? Hey, this is how you use this. Here's a little bit of direction or a little video of how this works and how this can work for you. We're going to have this training session. If you would like to be one of our champions and part of our beta group, come to it, learn what we're doing. So if you keep that going together, so your planning and your governance goes along with your communications and your pilot and your adoption conversations, then you're going to get a much better experience with your users. Communication is key, training is key. Conversations, letting them be part of the conversation is key, because you will have a better experience, you'll get a lot less pushback, your help desk will be happy because they're not getting calls saying, what did you do? Kind of thing. So it's very important to have that. So they give a little example here. Customer A deploys it, they'll figure it out, we're going to organically grow it. And I tell you how many people have said to me, it's going to organically grow. People will find it, they're going to use it, it's going to be great. You see that little purple line on the bottom? That's those people.
Organic growth.
This purple growth. That's those people. Customer B communicated early. They used awareness and training channels. They reached out to their people. Hey, do you want to try this? Hey, what do you think? They mapped their personas. They discovered who was going to do what. Personas are your people in HR, your people in finance, your people, all of your different departments have different needs. So defining those personas and what those needs are is going to help you communicate better how this can work for them. So if you know your people and you know your needs, you have a better way with your users.
What's
That's
the
where
we in there?
champions come in.
What, the next word, we, W-I-I-F-I?
WIIFM.
No, I don't know.
Ryan, help me out with that. WIIFM activities created champions.
What's it?
What's in it for me? Thank you. Yes, I
Okay.
appreciate that. I never know what that means until somebody says it, and then I know. So what's in it for me? Activities. So the reason to bring in people from different departments to be champions is to know what your needs are. Because somebody in HR is probably not going to know the needs of somebody in IT, who's not going to know the needs of somebody in finance. So if you have different people and different perspectives, then you have the what's in it for me. And having those personas and knowing that what people need is going to help you with that better growth factor. Also, the people who are using it are going to talk about it. The people they're talking to about it are going to want to use it. And therefore, you have your growth. So from what our testers have found is you get 44 times more growth with a pull method than with a push. And this gives a little bit more on that pilot. So both were successful in their own ways, but the pull method had a better success faster with more people using it and a happier customer or happier user. Here's customer A. We all love rip and replace, don't we? No, we really don't. But people get used to it. And unfortunately, that's a big mindset, is people will get used to it. They'll get used to it. We'll rip it, replace it. They're going to complain, but they'll get used to it. Teams is something that's so different from what most people have ever used that it takes a little bit longer. So you really need to invest in your people. So the rollout approach is based on the proven framework that we've had here. You gather the right sponsors and your project team. We'll go through what that looks like. Define your project scope, goals, and timeline. Assess your network readiness. Cannot say that enough. Assess your network readiness. Teams brings all of Office 365 together. It is not going to take the same amount of bandwidth as Skype. It's going to take more because you're bringing more together in the initial. Okay? It's not going to keep it there, but it does take more. You need to make sure your network is ready for that. You need to make sure that your video ports are ready for that. Your audio ports are ready for that. Your sharing. Assess your user acceptance and design readiness plan. Have a readiness plan. Having a readiness plan is important. Implement your pilot and rollout strategy, and then drive value with those operations and user adoption. Keep up with what's going on. Survey your users. What do you like about this? What do you don't? What's been good about this experience? What has not been good about this experience? The right stakeholders are important. So IT is very important. I am not going to downplay the importance of IT in this. But having a business sponsor, having an executive sponsor, having your department managers on board and encouraging their people to try to use Teams, having human resources on board, because nothing happens in this world without human resources. We all know that. They're very important. Have a lead. Have a project manager. I have seen companies try to roll things out without project managers. It does not work well. Have a project manager, please. Or someone who's acting as a project manager who actually knows how to manage a project. You know it's true. Your project team. Make sure that you have your IT pros, your champions, your tenant admins. Everybody on the technical side needs to be on board, or you're going to have people fighting you on firewall. You're going to have people fighting you on network. Make sure everybody's together as part of the same team. Adoption change manager. Change management is important. And we all say this together also so I can make sure you're awake. Change management is important. Thank you. Adoption is important. Having training for your team is important. And who is the most important people to train? It's up there. Support and help desk. Because all of your calls come through help desk. All of your calls come through support. These are your first line of defense. Make sure they know what they're talking about, please.
Or they escalate to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to make your life easier, make their life easier. Best thing. So make sure you have all of these stakeholders engaged. This is important. This is, these are your people. So let's talk a little bit about governance. So we've had a lot of customers who are like, well, I don't want everybody to be able to create teams, especially out the gate. Team sprawl is a thing. We don't want this to happen here. Totally understand. So manage who can create teams. This is managed through Office 365 groups. A lot of things are managed through Office 365 groups. Because when you create a team, you're creating an Office 365 group with a SharePoint on the back end and a hidden mailbox. So manage who can create teams to prevent some of that sprawl. That does require an Azure Active Directory P1 license, as does naming conventions. Naming conventions are not naming policies. There's a difference. Naming policies is a training thing. If you want people to start their team name with HR or finance or whatever their department is, you need to train them to do that. That's a naming policy. A naming convention is applying a prefix or a suffix. Also requires Azure AD Premium. File storage, where do you want things stored? Meeting, chat, and voice. Do you want to allow this? Something that you're thinking about. It's all managed in the Teams Admin Center. Guest access. Do I want to allow guests in Teams? Something to note about guest access. Guest access has 3 levels when it comes to Teams. So Teams is the base level. But if you have guest access turned on in Teams, but you don't have it turned on in SharePoint, you're not going to get it in Teams. If you have it turned on in SharePoint and Teams, but you don't have it turned on in Azure AD, you're not going to get it in SharePoint and Teams. So there are levels. So Teams, and then SharePoint's above that, and Azure AD is above that when you're talking about guest access. External access is different. That's your federation. Does everybody understand these questions about difference there? Approved apps. Manage, like I said at the beginning, manage your apps. If you have concerns about what apps your users are using within Teams, manage them. Go to the admin center, turn off the ones you don't want, or turn them all off and turn on the ones that you do. But you have that ability to control. Lifecycle also requires Azure AD Premium, but you can set a lifecycle so you can have an expiration date for your teams. If you're worried about team sprawl and you're worried about people not deleting unused teams, set an expiration date. How to create teams? I mean, that's a decision you need to make. Do you want people to create their own teams? Do you want to create them for them and add someone? Do you want to have a rule that you train people? You need to have more than one user. We highly recommend you have more than one user as an owner of a team. More than one owner for every team. All right. Awareness, training, support. I think I've beat it into you enough. How important? Does everybody understand? Good? I see a lot of nodding. Crawl, walk, line, upgrade and rollout approach. The reason this is important is because you want to understand what your users are seeing. You want to understand how they feel about Teams. What are they seeing? What are they liking? What are they not liking? What are they finding easy to understand? What are they not? What do they need more training on? What is user-friendly? To the wall. You're implementing your right coexistence model. So if you're moving from Skype for Business to Teams, we'll talk about coexistence of what that looks like. So we've got Skype only. We've got Skype with Teams for collaboration. Skype with Teams for collaboration and meetings. And Teams only. And islands, which you're probably figure out what works best for you and how you want to move your users. And then upgrade all your users to Teams only. Once you get there, you're there. You're done. Congratulations. But don't turn off your Skype licenses. And don't remove the client. We'll talk about that in a bit. Adoption change management considerations. Change management important?
Yes.
Thank you. So these are questions to ask yourself. I'm not going to read them all off. You can read your adults. You're here, therefore I assume you're employed. You can read. But definitely make sure that you're asking yourself, your IT group, your users, and your trainers these questions. And that you're actually working along with your people by the answers. So here are some resources. I'm going to let you take a picture of this. Successwithteams.com is your gateway to everything. Everything, everything. And then aka.ms/Teams live training is webinars, but it's also recorded webinars. So if you don't have time to register and attend one of the webinars, you can watch one of the recordings. Bless you. Bless you. Everybody get this? Some additional resources that I highly recommend you check out. aka.ms/Teams adoption. aka.ms/Teams toolkit is a flip book. It is one of the coolest things you'll ever see. It really is. It also has all the adoption information. It has some plans, some suggested plan templates. There's a ton of information in there, and it is very, very handy. So if you only get one website out of here, aka.ms/Teams toolkit, it will lead you to the rest. Is everyone good on the picture? All right. Questions on this, and I'm going to let you have a break. Stop talking. Yes, sir.
Well, for like the adoption portion of it, is Teams going to be integrated into the PSTN or like the actual telephone? Do you have telephone where I get a number associated? I haven't used that fast yet. I use it more as like.
Oh yes, all of the voice aspects are in our calling. So you've got PSTN, UDX, calling plans. Yeah, it's all there.
You can use the cloud, or you can use your existing trunks.
Yeah, you can bring your own trunk for direct routing. All right.
You have two separate accounts. You work for two separate companies. Is it hard to combine? So you don't have to reboot every time you want to split into different teams?
So, best advice I can give you on that, use one in the desktop client and the other in the web client. I do that all the time. I'm on several different customers' tenants. So to flip, I open up Teams in my web client and I flip between tenants there, but I keep my desktop on my Microsoft tenant. But if you work for two different companies, that's the best way that I've found to be active in two different tenants on Teams. Also, the mobile client flips pretty quickly too.
But you can flip without doing that. It just,
Yeah.
you're only seeing one tenant at a time when you do that.
Yeah.
You said with the mobile client?
Yeah, I flip with the mobile client too.
Yeah, it's called
Yeah.
fast switching.
Yeah. It is fast switching. Yes.
I had a question about messaging with Teams. We recently are starting, in the early adoption, your people are using little, here's a team meeting. The biggest response that I'm hearing, and we have relatively large calls, is what happened to my list of attendees? And how can I tell who's talking, who's on that phone? It used to be with Skype, we hear Bob say, just a minute, honey, the dog barks. They go large, you can right-click them, and you can mute them.
Yes.
Can't do that with Teams.
Yeah.
How can you tell me how we can do that?
Yes. So there are a couple of different ways. So one is if no one's presenting, you've got your four square people on the bottom, then you can generally see who lights up, especially if they're yelling or the dog's barking. It's always fun. There's an ellipses that you can hover over them. There's an ellipses, you can click on that and mute them. Also, if you click on the little people icon on your meeting, that gives you your list of attendees and also lights up who's talking. So you can see who's not on mute and all of that from right there, and you can mute them.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That would be a training.
Yeah. Yes.
There is a stupid question. Can we invite outside company people who have the Office 365?
To meetings, yes.
To meet.
To meetings, yes, and then for chat, it depends on how your federation is set up. So federation is where you're allowed to chat with external users, either a specific domain or if it's over federation, chat with external.
How about the collaboration?
But unfortunately,
Yep, the collaboration depending on your settings. Yeah. So all of that is dependent on what your settings are for external users in SharePoint and Teams. And it. All right, let's take 15 minutes. We'll meet back here. How many of you have heard of first line worker or shifts in Teams?
Who? What did you say?
First line worker, it's right here. Shifts.
Shift.
Shifts.
Oh, you have to pronounce shift.
Yeah, see,
with
that's
enunciation.
why editing, that's why the ability to edit your messages in Teams is actually a very good thing. Because sometimes we say shift without the F. And then we have to go in and edit, correct? Unlike some other things that did not allow you to do that, you can now
Go back.
correct your
What you said.
profanity in Teams. Very exciting. The first line worker. There are some topics in here that are very, very specific to first line worker and shifts, and there are some topics that can be used in any organization, for any team, that kind of thing. So, it gives you the power to communicate. Shifts is built for mobile. So that would be mobile phone, that would be your mobile tablet, whatever you're using for that. So you have that one-on-one chat, you've got channels, you can stay informed with your SharePoint, your team's announcements, that kind of thing. Connect and engage. So has anybody found the announcements in Teams? Okay, so an announcement in Teams, you can have a big banner with a headline, and then a secondary headline, and then the actual message. Got that. It shows up on your mobile device very nicely as well. You can simplify onboarding by having your team, your new hire team, with FAQs, training videos, and resources such as your HR policy and your travel policy and your please don't do this policy. Seamlessly managing shifts and time off requests. So whether you're a manager or whether you are actually part of that team, you can put in your time off requests. You can swap shifts where needed. You have a doctor's appointment or you have an emergency. You can put that out there, request that time off, say that you can't do the shift, you want to switch, and the manager approves it, and you work that out. Also have a time clock. So if you are a client that is an organization where you clock in and clock out, you can clock in and clock out per shifts. Just one app for all of these things. Steve. So we're going to go through this little, seriously, I just really, really love the way that these move. That's why I like these slides so much. Oh, you'll see it. The animation's fantastic. But this gives you kind of a how you use it in the life of first-line workers. So finding colleagues and chatting with them directly, asking questions to your lead or to your manager or to your coworkers of, hey, I've run into this situation, it's the first time I've run into it, what do I do? Hey, I have this emergency and I have to leave, but the client is here. Can somebody come relieve me so that I can go? You're very quickly able to communicate and get answers and get backup if you need it. You can do audio and video, you can do it through chat, do it through a team to reach a lot of people, or you can do it through chat to reach one or a few. If you make a typo in your message, you can go back and correct it. Shift, shirt, hello. You don't have to type long responses. You've got emojis. You've got emojis and stickers and GIFs and all these great things. If you have not tried it on mobile yet, you can share your location with great accuracy. It shows you exactly where you are. When typing's not possible, if you haven't noticed it, and you have the mobile app, pull it out and look at it. If your admins have turned it on or allowed it to stay on, there's a little microphone. You can send a voice message, not voicemail, but a voice message in Teams. If you're driving, which you really shouldn't be doing this while you're driving anyway, but if you're driving or you're somewhere where you cannot type, your hands are full, and you just need to send a message, you do it through audio. You can capture an image and annotate it before sharing it in the chat. Hopefully we will have time to get to the healthcare bit of this, but let me tell you what's so important about capturing an image in Teams. If you open up Teams and you open that camera from Teams, it's a smart camera. That photo photo is only in Teams. It's not on your phone. It's not saved in the photos on your phone. It's not saved in your files on your phone. It's only in Teams. So that is a security feature, and it is a super cool one. And it's been very big for the healthcare field, any other privacy photo fields. With Teams you can set up, with Teams set up, you can find your relevant information by channels. So when we're talking about Teams and setting them up, and this isn't just in Shifts, this is in Teams all up. When you are creating a team, one of the biggest questions I get is, okay, I have a general channel, what else do I need? Well, depending on how you work, all you need is a general channel. If you're working on a project, think about how you would separate that documentation in different folders. Think about how you separate this conversation or the pieces of that team. So if you're working on a project, generally you have a budget. So I would put that in your channel. Because any discussions around budget or writing the budget or work over budget would need to happen in that channel. You'd have a logistics channel. You would have a project management channel. And then that's also how your folders would be structured within that SharePoint backend. So any files you put in those channels are going to be sorted the same way. So when you're talking about setting up your team with the different channels, you can find them very quickly on your phone or your computer, whatever you're looking at your team in, so that you can easily find the information that you're looking for. So relevant updates from Twitter are posted straight to Teams. So Twitter is one of the applications that you can integrate into Teams. A lot of, and people are like, Twitter, why? Well, there are a lot of companies who post on Twitter. They post on Twitter, they react to posts on Twitter, so that's part of their marketing. It's part of their HR, part of whoever runs that Twitter feed, but it's also how they can get a message out, a public message out about things that are going on. A lot of companies have Twitter feeds that are important to keep up with, especially if you're in the field, because you need to know what's going on. Messaging extension. So did everybody know what messaging extension is? Fantastic, I love to use. So in your messages, you've got a couple of extension availabilities here. So you can add in Excel sheet or Power BI or something like that. You can add in places, you can add in documents right here, and that just in your message. Is that okay? You can bookmark information. You've seen the little saved tab actually looks like a bookmark next to the message. If you look in the ellipses next to a message, there's a bookmark. And where you find those saved messages is in your icon in the upper right-hand corner of your client, or if you're in mobile, you can just pull it up from the bottom, and it's right there if you're saved. So if you bookmark information to look at later, or a message that came in that you want to look at later, a document, it's right there. Urgent messages. Who has discovered urgent messages? Yep. Urgent messages are great for critical updates because they ping that person every 2 minutes for up to 20 minutes or until they check that message. I say this again. Urgent messages, very different than important. Urgent messages will ping someone a reminder every 2 minutes for 20 minutes or until they check that message. This is good in healthcare. This is good for firefighters, police officers. This is not good for IT professionals.
So can you remove?
Unless someone's gonna die. Please don't do that. Yes, you can turn it off. The admins can turn it off. So abuse it, you may lose it. I'm just saying. If it were me, it'd be gone. Well, it depends on your, if you are in a business where it would constitute an emergency, where something would just completely crash, people would be in danger, leave it up. If not, connect and engage. So you get your company announcements on Teams, you get that ping, that notification, you get to participate. So through Stream, you've got videos. because all of the videos that are captured for Teams meetings are in stream. So all of those you have access to from Teams, your mobile device. All of the meetings, the live events that happen through Teams, you can access through Teams on your mobile device. This is all, like I said, not just shifts, but all of the things you can do in mobile. You can praise your colleagues. Everybody likes to give other people praise, right? We all like to get praise too, but doesn't it feel good to say, you know what? So-and-so did a great job today. Jeff had a great presentation today. You know what? You really helped us today. Let's send some praise. Icebreaker App and Teams. Great story about this. So the Icebreaker App was created, kind of by accident, by the Teams product group. And it is on GitHub. And I'll find the specific link and I'll share it so we can share it out with the group. But Icebreaker is a bot that takes two people from a team and sets up a meeting with them together. By their calendars, checks their calendars, set up appropriate time, that kind of thing. But you can set up a frequency, and what it does is it brings your team closer together. So if you have a team that's fairly new, or is fairly spread out, or just has this huge gap in where they're located, or an age gap or something like that, it brings them together, and it's a random selection. So you're not saying, if you're gonna come and sit with this guy, you guys are gonna have a 30-minute meeting and you're gonna get to know each other. No. It's an icebreaker. So it puts you together for that 30-minute meeting. The expectation is that you have a conversation and get to know your colleagues better. So this, I delivered this deck specifically to the Microsoft Tech Talk team. And one of the guys on that team set it up for his new team. And so he's letting me know how it works. It started yesterday. So I'm looking forward to it. He said it works. So he's going to let me know the feedback of what everybody thinks. But everybody thinks it's a great idea so far. We'll see how it goes. But it's going to be a weekly thing. So check it out, Icebreaker. Look it up on GitHub. I'm looking forward to trying it, but I just don't have that team yet. When you join the company as a new recruit, you've got all the recordings. So if you're recording all those meetings, recording all those trainings, you can set it up on a channel, and you can get to that channel in Teams. You can pin it, or you can post a link to it, or you can just go to stream and then goes directly to it through Teams. You can ask newbie questions to the FAQ bot. Also helpful. Icebreaker once again. Definitely check it out. Managing shifts and time off requests. So all of your duties are in the Shifts app. And then you get reminders for your shift. You can manage your hours before your notification comes in. You can request swaps of shifts and track those requests, whether or not they've been approved by a manager, or if they're still pending, you need to follow up, and then you can ping that person if they haven't responded or followed up. You can pick up additional work. You can clock in and clock out. You can put in time requests. All in Teams. We have not left Teams. And all of these different things that we've talked about, we have not left Teams. Animation, that's right. So the employee intranet through SharePoint, you can get to it through Teams. As a pinned app. Forms, so if you're sending out surveys or quick responses, so you got quick surveys that you can do through Poly, but for forms, with forms, you can do longer surveys, such as, how do you feel about Teams? You know, was this helpful for you? Did you do this? If so, then what? Did you do that? If so, then what? If you have not tried forms for surveys, that might be another conversation we need to have. Go check it out, because you can also pin those right here in Teams, so you can get to it from team or channel. You can check your annual leave. There's Matt for that. Within shifts. And then, has anybody tried the quiet hours? Teams has quiet hours. If you have not tried them, I highly recommend that you do, especially if you have a mobile app. So what it will do, quiet it down, just like quiet hours on your phone. You're not going to get the notifications, you're not going to get that number thing that just calls to you. Calls to me. Or anything like that. This is what was meant to be our brain. They're pretty good. I like Scrum. So we're going to go through a couple of the verticals. Since nobody here is education, I just hit all of those. So we're just going to go through some of the things. First one being government, just for you guys. We're just going to breeze through this because I know Alan already knows it, which is fine. So this is just some of the different ways that you can use Office 365 in government. Government leaders need to be able to contact and connect with the different leaders throughout the state, throughout the city, throughout the region. Gain that public trust with the security and visibility that's here. Government employees need to have that ability to quickly connect with each other. Field workers, I don't know why that person's actually in a field, but sometimes our government workers are in actual fields. I mean, we do have the FDA. I'm just saying. So the biggest question that we get for our government customers, we have 3 different government clouds for those of you who don't know. We have a GCC cloud, which is our regular government cloud. We have a GCC High, for a little bit higher security. And then we have a Department of Defense cloud, which we don't talk about. So what I wanted to point out here with these slides are those things that we don't have, and some things that we do. So the things that are still on the government backlog.
What does it mean by backlog? What do you mean?
On the government backlog means they're still working on it. It's not been released. OneNote tab is on. It's not already there. Yes. The web tab has already been released.
So
Emailing
commercial,
channel is not coming.
so commercial and the government cloud are not one-to-one as far as
No.
functionality is concerned?
Nope.
We're fit, right?
Never. Service hub support, probably not coming. Email and channel is definitely not coming. Everything else, GCC is coming right up to one-to-one for just about everything else. So, and then I hear that once private channels rolls to commercial, it's only expanding. So, private channels is not running full yet. The App Store is still in the government backlog. FedRAMP.
Your
Yeah.
mileage stream
Well, and then the apps may vary too. So we'll go with that. GCC High, what's not available right now? There's a lot, as you can see. On the government backlog means they're working on it. Not available means probably not getting it. Just that's Stephanie's interpretation, translation of on the government backlog not available. GCC High is quite unlikely to get an app store. Same. Email channel also not coming to GCC High. Skype consumer to Teams, very unlikely to be a GCC High. And then Teams for DoD, that's all I got. This and the next one. So I think we can focus on what's available here more than what's not available. Cool. For my 2 government people. So aren't you all lucky that you're not in the government cloud?
Yeah. See, and if you're in healthcare, you cry.
So
If you work in the field, you have to have plans.
So someone, yes, so someone said she just got her bill. I'm glad that got you, I'm glad I'm working this week. Okay, much like the shifts, not all of this only applies to healthcare. There's some really cool stuff in here, and this is all in the commercial cloud. Sorry. Actually, some of it I can use. Yep. So patient safety, quality of care, cost reduction, growth has really focused Microsoft on what does the healthcare community need? what do we need to make sure that we're doing right for the healthcare community? Let's go that secure smart camera. Secure camera. The action camera will come up. So what's top of mind for our healthcare leaders? Your teams need to be empowered. They need to be able to work with the right information and get it at the right time. Improving handoff reduces cost. If you have to go to the doctor and then they say, oh no, sorry, wrong doctor, then you have to go home and you have to make an appointment and you have to wait a month and then you go to this other doctor and they're like, oh no, you need to go back to so-and-so. Are you kidding me? Your teams can minimize that if your doctors are connected. Integrated systems can improve patient safety and outcomes if you are connected with other physicians, even if they're not in your network, but you're connected with them on one patient, then the patient's going to have a better experience. The doctors are going to have a better experience because they know they're not killing their patient by giving them the wrong medication because it doesn't mix with the other. Pharmacists are goddesses and gods. Just appreciate your pharmacists. They're keeping you alive. Earning and keeping patients' trust is essential. Knowing that your patient information is secure is essential. How many of us absolutely know without a doubt that our patient information is secure?
No, nobody's
Yeah.
raising their hand.
Nobody's got a hand up. Because we don't know. We just don't. So, using teams. Communication, collaboration, customizing an extension, and working with confidence. We've already talked about all of these things. So when it comes to patients, that communication is key. Not only between the clinicians that are taking care of the same patient, but also the patient and the clinician. Making sure that they have a solid way to get in touch with you, and you with them, and that they have the right information for you is key. Collaboration, patient handoffs. If your doctors can collaborate together and see the same information and share the same chart, you're golden. Most of the time, as a doctor. Customize and extend. Bring in those different tools, those different healthcare tools and information systems so that you have that security. And work with confidence. Again, security, security, security. Our security and compliance center handles everything all in one place. So chat, because the chat is secure. Either channel conversations, one-to-one chat, or group chats. That chat is secure, so people can actually talk about patient care. If you're in a hospital and you've got kidney disease, but your heart is acting up, you need your nephrologist to be able to talk to your cardiologist, and then you need your primary care physician to be able to talk to them. This actually makes that possible, especially if they're all connected. Even if they're not in the same healthcare system, if they're all connected and they have that capability. Background blur. We all saw this guy on the news with his kid and his wife dragging the kid out of the door. But background blur is important for more than just that. You don't necessarily want, if you have stuff on your blackboard or your whiteboard and you don't want that patient information to show for the person you're talking to, blur is really key. Not just for the beach. Don't do this. Maybe secure. But calling, there's integrated phone systems, the calling plans that you can get through cloud voice, direct routing. You know, those video calls for the video doctor's appointments. Telemedicine, thank you. Telemedicine. All through here. The smart camera that we've already talked about. Is that not cool? Who tried it on the Yep. But that smart camera is really awesome because you can take those secure pictures. And the thing that you're taking a picture of, this works well for documents too. So if you're sending a document to somebody, but that document only needs to be seen by that one person, you take a picture of it and you're sending it to them in Teams, that's the only place it is. It's where it lives. Priority notifications we already talked about. Again, warning every 2 minutes for 20 minutes. Don't do that to people unless you absolutely have an emergency. Message delegation is in private preview, but what message delegation does is you're delegating another person to get your messages when you are unavailable. So if you're on Do Not Disturb or you're offline, somebody else can receive those messages. So if you're a doctor on call and you're in surgery, but you need somebody to be on call, your backup, that's who you can delegate those messages to go to while you're in this 4-hour surgery. So that helps with that. And it's the same thing if you're out of office, that message delegation, if messages come to you and you really need them to go to somebody because somebody needs to be able to respond to them, message delegation. Don't abuse it, people will abuse it back to you. Federated messaging. So that's the chatting with federated contacts. This is what I was talking about in Teams with other organizations, that external access, which is different from being able to add guests. That is the federated messaging. So that's where you would talk to somebody in another company. Yeah.
Stephanie?
Yes.
So the way I explain it to customers, the main difference between federation and guest access is guest access is a single user. Federated is an entire organization.
Right.
Now we're talking ADFS or something
It's the external through Azure AD.
else?
Becomes a
So the guest would be an account in Azure AD, depending on how you have that set up. Federation would be turning on external federated services. And you can either leave it open federation or you can whitelist or blacklist.
Same as Skype. Same principle as Skype.
The Teams admin. Electronic health record access. So with the extensible platforms, I'm sorry, my brain just stopped working at about 6. Microsoft 365 extensible platforms, that brings in whatever your EHR is, your electronic health record system, whatever that is, you can bring that into Teams through those third-party applications and assign those tabs if needed. Using shifts. In the healthcare world, we have nursing shifts, we have hospital shifts, we have candy striker shifts. There's all kinds of things like volunteer shifts that you can put in here. And then those third-party apps, chatbots, planner. So you can create a chatbot and integrate it to answer patient questions or to set up scheduling. You can use Power BI and integrate that into Teams for to measure your best practices, to measure how many patients you're seeing a week, whatever you're looking at, reporting, put that in Power BI, bring that right into Teams. And again, with the security, data loss prevention is huge in many, many different aspects, but finance, healthcare, government, anywhere where someone may put a credit card number or a social security number, data loss prevention is going to help you with that. Or for that, rather. Yes, sir.
When you talk about healthcare, is that, does the veteran healthcare system that's coming down the pike, coming under government or under healthcare?
Well, so healthcare is not its own cloud. It does not have its own cloud. So healthcare is usually part of, it can actually be part of different SKUs and different clouds. So if you think about it, there's a lot of healthcare that's just standalone healthcare. There's a lot of healthcare that falls under the education sector. At Duke University, University of Virginia, all of these different universities. You've got all these different universities that have EDU licenses, but they've got healthcare. So they've got their piece. And then you do have the VA, which is, I believe VA is government licenses, but not.
Yes.
And they may have both, actually. I think they're just government, or VA.
Well, yes, just government.
Gentleman right here, you talk to him about the VA.
GCC, we're at GCC.
Alan will tell you all about the VA. Speak with him. Yeah, so what other questions?
With the frontline workers and the ability to clock in and clock out, can any of that be integrated with like the major payroll providers?
It
And is there
depends.
geofencing or tracking on that as far as making sure they're in the building? Clocking in from the car?
Checking in.
They're not clocking out from somewhere else. So yes, you can actually, you can geotrack that, and then it depends on what they're using now. whether or not it can be integrated, it would depend on what apps are there. And when the third-party apps are created, they're put in Microsoft Teams, they're not created by Microsoft, they're created by that third party. So they're using a third party that they want to integrate in. It would be, do they have an app? If they don't have an app, are they willing to create one? Is there some way that we can put that side with that in? Yes?
For some of your compliance, I mean, if I wanted to save my logs that I've created locally, I have to do it right, because I can also choose to turn that off as well. Or,
What do you mean?
so let's say I've got like a whole conversation going on in Teams, and I want to back it up for say I can save it local to my machine, right, or not?
No. You do not save it local. So how that works is the conversations that you're having in chat or in the channels. So the conversations you're having in chat are saved in a hidden folder in that user's Exchange mailbox. So it's not a visible folder like Skype or conversation history. It is because it's perpetual in Teams for however long your organization allows it. It's in that hidden mailbox, which is how it's e-discoverable, it's how legal hold applies, and DLP applies, all that. So that's all there. So even if you delete a message, it's still there in that folder. You edit a message, the original and the editor are still in that folder. So you can search all of that in discovery. In the channels, it is in the hidden shared mailbox for that team. But it's in Exchange in that hidden shared mailbox. And if a user in that mailbox has a legal hold on them, then that applies to everything there as well. Okay?
Right, so the data is actually in the cloud, it's not on
The
the
data is in
machine.
the cloud, it is not on your machine.
So wherever you log in from your phone, any
Exactly.
device, the data's in the cloud.
And that's why you're getting the same messaging in Teams no matter where you're using it. The same data everywhere that you're using Teams. So if you're on your PC on your desktop app and then you switch to somebody else's PC because yours did whatever it did, or you're on Windows 7 still, it was on Windows 7. End of life is in January. And your machine crashes, then you go use somebody else's machine and log into the web client, same thing. On your mobile, same thing. Read the same thing. Yes?
Can you explain any feature how to sharing or collaborating with Excel file or PowerPoint file?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I don't have my demo tenant set up, and I apologize for that. But so what you would do is you would, in a channel or in a chat, you could share the file. So if you're sharing a file in a chat, a conversation, if I share a file, that file lives on my OneDrive. And any changes that we make while sharing that file and bringing it up and having a conversation while we're making changes, those are saved on my OneDrive. If you download a copy, you only have the version you downloaded. If we make additional changes, it's still on my OneDrive. So that's how it works in a chat.
So both can overlap.
Yeah, that's a one-on-one chat, so it would only be on my OneDrive, but we both have access through a link within the chat, the Files tab of the chat. Now in a channel, so if you have a team in the channel and you share a file there, it saves a copy on the SharePoint backend. And any work that you do on that file is saved in that SharePoint backend within the team. So anybody in the team can access that file, and all changes will be saved right there. So if you're collaborating with everybody on the team in one file, and you have that right there. If you save a copy to your computer or to your OneDrive, that's a copy of the version that you saved. If more work's done on a SharePoint file within the team, then that's saved right there in SharePoint.
So it's better than share file in SharePoint rather than OneDrive.
Correct. So the chat is OneDrive, and the channel is SharePoint. Okay?
So I can share in a chat a file just like I could in Skype or whatever.
Right.
But now you can also create a PowerPoint tab.
Yes.
So what's the difference
So when you're creating a tab in a chat or a channel?
in a chat?
In a chat? Okay, so when you're creating a tab, that's just making it more visible. So it's still saved in that chat, So if you can get to it through the OneDrive, but you're just pinning it, so that it, instead of going to files and going to find it, you just have it pinned
So
right
it's
there.
just a
Same with the
visual.
channel, yes, it's just a visual. So it has to be within the chat for it to be pinned, and it has to be within the channel for it to be pinned. So you can't pin a, you have a PowerPoint channel in Team A, and you're trying to pin it in Team B, it's not gonna happen. Just like if you have if you're in Team A and you're in Channel 1 with that file, and you wanna pin it in Channel 2, that's not gonna happen because it needs to be in the same channel for it to be pinned as a tab. Does that kind of clarify?
Yeah, so when is a file stored as a SharePoint blob? And when is it stored as blob? When is it shared in OneDrive?
So in a chat, a one-to-one or one-to-many chat under the
Right.
chat tab,
If I
that's one.
connect, if I drag a file from my desktop to
The
the
chat,
chat, it
that will say
upload it to the OneDrive for the team.
to know
No,
it's a chat,
it's a chat.
so it's not in a team.
So you're,
It's-
So you have chats.
It's just in that chat.
Right, so you have chats, which are your one-on-one to one-to-many, and then you have teams, which have channels. So if you're dragging it to the chat from your desktop, then what it's gonna do is gonna create a copy on your OneDrive in a folder called Teams Chat Files,
And they're getting a link to
and
that.
they're getting a link to that on your OneDrive, and those changes will be saved there, not on your desktop. Okay? Now, if you drag and drop it in a channel, that's where it saves a copy on the SharePoint backend that anybody in that team can reach. Okay?
Very good.
So that's where that's on SharePoint.
Thank you for that distinction.
And you're welcome. And the chat is on under. And I get this question all the time. How does OneDrive integrate? How does SharePoint integrate? Where do I use all of these things? It's a common question. It's kind of confusing. I get it. So the way that I answer this is OneDrive is for your personal files. OneDrive, personal files. They can be shared out to one or a few. There are many people who are using OneDrive as a SharePoint. We do not recommend that. That is not best practice. If you do it, that's on you. But think about it this way. When you are sharing a file from your OneDrive, if that person should no longer have access to that file, how often do you go back and check who has access to these files in your OneDrive? How often do you check exactly? Never. So SharePoint is for sharing with a larger group, with your department or your division or your team. So that's why
falls off the team.
then they no longer have access, exactly. So if someone is removed from that SharePoint or someone is removed from that team, they no longer have access to that file. Think about budget files, HR files, personnel files. Those are not things you want just anybody to have access to. So you need to make sure that you know who you're sharing these
So-
things with.
Let me follow up on that.
Okay,
All right, so you and I are in a chat. We're both on the finance team.
okay.
And I commit a capital E evil, capital A act, and I am discharged
Yep.
or moved to some lateral position. Right, they make me a
Which also
target.
happens.
How is it, do I continue to have access to this conversation that I was part of?
If it's a chat,
Yeah.
yes.
Now, that's not,
And
that could be
that's
not good.
OneDrive.
That could be a not good thing.
And
right?
that could be a not good thing.
No.
But if you're
However-
In that government environment, if you were demoted or got moved, you would be deleted. You would no longer have that OneDrive.
If you were
Yes.
fired, yes, but if he was just moved to a different department in the same organization, he would still have access to a chat.
Right.
So you have to be careful what you're sharing with whom in a chat, because that's your OneDrive.
Now, will they
That's
continue
still-
to have, so if I,
Well,
will
that
I still have
depends.
access to your file that you shared in that chat as well? Because
Not
you-
if I delete it.
But you would have to affirmatively do that.
I would
and go,
have to do it.
Oh crap, Alan was an evil man. And I need to go back and look for all my chats with Alan.
It would only be one chat, because it's one continuous chat. I wouldn't have to look for all of my chats with Alan, just one.
That's
Well,
all Office
except for I could have
365.
And the files tab within that one.
It could have been you and me, and it could have been me and,
Now, if there's more than one person,
yeah.
you can remove that person and they no longer have access.
You can eject them from the
I
chat.
can eject them from the chat. We call it remove, but eject sounds so much better. We're gonna put in the change request. Can we put eject instead of remove, please? Because that would, I mean, it just sounds better.
So Stephanie, as long as somebody has an Office 365 account, if they're not terminated, that's the whole thing that we're saying is
In that
OneDrive is a, when you create a team site, right, OneDrive, et cetera, but when you have an Office
That's
365.
SharePoint. That's SharePoint.
Right,
Get your word right.
I'm sorry, excuse me. So when you sign up for Office 365, right, if your admin turns on the ability to do OneDrive, that's separate from
Sure.
Teams, right? So as long as you have an Office 365 account, you will have access to your OneDrive.
To your OneDrive.
Correct.
But then what he's talking about is if I share something with him.
Right, so you can actually go in and see, like if you bring up File Explorer, you can see if you share out a folder or share out a document, there's a visual indication that says
How often do you
that's
look
shared.
at that?
I mean, you would have to know,
Okay, and that's the point.
and that's why we
I
have
say
governance, that's why we have
OneDrive
the,
is
yeah,
for one person, it's your personal drive. If you share out with one to few,
correct.
then it's better managed, but that's why we have SharePoint for the sharing out to
Right.
many.
And then we have the
Document
security.
libraries. And that's why SharePoint is the back end of Teams, because if you are removed from a team because you have been an evil person, then you no longer have access to any part of that team,
Now,
including SharePoint.
In traditional SMB storage, I as an administrator can say, I look at your files and I can look at the ACLs on your files and say, oh, you are sharing this file, and I can, as an administrator, change that, delete that share, or change that ACL, and grant it access. Does an administrator have that ability inside of Teams? And if not, why not?
Inside of Teams?
Inside of
Oh, absolutely.
Or inside, right? And, well,
Inside of Teams, yes. Inside of SharePoint, yes. Inside
What
of
about-
OneDrive,
yes,
I don't.
well, that's, I'm
I
guessing it's
don't have the
OneDrive.
answer of that.
Administration of
I'm not a-
OneDrive is its own thing.
I'm not a OneDrive admin person. So I
Remember,
let you
OneDrive
find
is
out.
SharePoint. It's built on
OneDrive is
SharePoint.
part of SharePoint,
Yeah.
so it likely can be managed, but I need to check on that because I don't know.
Right, because that would be a desirable thing to do.
It would be a desirable thing to do, but it also is your personal drive, so you can go into people's
I-
personal
we-
drives. and manage them.
Admins here play with people's personal drives all the time.
It's not a personal drive, it's a company drive.
It is a
Your-
company
your
drive
stuff.
for your
Right,
stuff.
But the
yes.
company owns everything on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we tell you that when you sign up.
Absolutely.
Right.
So it most
So-
likely, yes,
The
but
way
I
around,
don't know.
the way around that, if you were being moved to a different department and you really wanted to cut ties with all of your data that you had previously,
The company might want to do that for you.
I would just eliminate your account, and recreate it. You have a different city, you don't have access to everything you had before.
Usually the SharePoint admin controls the OneDrive piece, and hopefully you guys are using the Security Compliance Center to, to prune the files, right? So you can set a retention policy to make sure that files are not too old, they get deleted, but that, again, that's usually SharePoint.
Cringe.
Now, building on that premise, right? Alan and I, we share a conversation, and I'm not gonna say he's an evil guy, I'm gonna be a nice person and say, he won the lottery, and he's quit the company, and he's left.
Okay,
Right?
he has no access to it.
Well, no, he won't have access, but do I still have access to the files he shared with me?
For a deleted
As long as
account.
the account stays active.
Once that
Usually you would
account's deleted, I
do,
lose.
Not from OneDrive.
again, that's
If the
security.
account is active, yes, but if it is permanently deleted in 30 days, no.
Right.
But an admin would have access to go and get,
From the recycle.
yeah.
You
To
can
go
dump
get
the
those
file.
files, yes, Jeff.
Yeah, so again, from a governance perspective, somebody, right, so people leave companies all the time, right?
Right.
So if you're working on a project, you don't want all your documents, you won't be able to access that, if the project manager leaves. So if you set up security and compliance properly, someone else will be able to, you can put those documents on hold.
Right.
So, I would look into doing some training on the Security and Compliance Center. And you will see in Teams, by the way, that you can't do all the governance in Teams.
Right.
You have to do some governance in SharePoint, some governance in Exchange.
And
So you have to know how all the pieces tie together, right? So if you want to control documents and who has access and what happens to those documents when people leave, or if I have documents that are a certain age and they need to be, deleted, or you need to hold on to a document for compliance reasons, right? All that's controlled in the security and compliance.
Thank you.
Yep. And it's across the whole Office 365 stack. It's not just, one product.
So we've got about 15 minutes. Do you guys have any wrap up stuff?
Yeah, if you're done with Q&A, we'll
Yep.
leave ready.
Well, I was going to say, I don't want anybody to miss out on the backpack.
Oh.